Hi guys, it's Megan, the faithful fibromyalgia warrior here. Thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. I know it's been a little while since a video or a live stream. Just life's been busy and that's a good thing. But I hope you're all doing well. I am doing super well. So today what I wanted to talk about is some things that I have been tweaking, adjusting, changing in my carnivore way of eating and how that's, I think, going to really help me. So if you don't know, back in June of 2020, I started out eating a ketogenic type of diet, which is where you keep your total carbs to 20 grams or less per day. And that can include either 1 cup of non-starchy vegetables if you want it and you can eat it. So things like broccoli, cauliflower, onions, tomatoes, and up to 2 cups of dark leafy greens, again, if you want it and if you can tolerate them. And then everything else is eating fatty sources of protein from the animal kingdom, whether that is a ruminant animal like beef or lamb, whether that is pork, chicken, turkey, duck, seafood, and fish. As well as their products that can include limited amounts of dairy in the form of, say, cheeses, if you want them. Again, limited. Could be things like sour cream. That could be things like Greek yogurt, or potentially you could be putting in, say, heavy cream in your coffee for those who tolerate it and want it. That's the ketogenic approach, okay? But what I found for me very quickly was that I had to eliminate all carbohydrates from dairy, other than butter, because butter is lactose, essentially it's lactose free, and I don't tolerate lactose, so that's why dairy is a bit of a non-starter for me. I have, from time to time, had little bits of cheese, and that first day I won't notice anything, but if I do the same thing for a couple more days, by the third day, I feel nauseous, I have a massive headache, the roof of my mouth gets itchy, I get bloated and quite gassy. So for me, I've learned I have to just not eat it. Now that doesn't mean I haven't had a little bit here and there, but I try to keep it to just once and only on like one day, and then maybe leave it a whole week or two before I have any more, if I'm going to have any. Ultimately for me, the best thing for me to do is have no cheese whatsoever. Full stop. And that's hard because there are so many nice cheeses like Jarlsberg and a good Camembert or a Brie. I like a nice Wensleydale, which is like almost like a crumbly goat cheese, etc. Right? But overall, I try to avoid cheese when at all possible. Right? Other than maybe once a week, if we go out and I get burger patties, if they come with a slice of cheese and an egg and some bacon, I'll eat it then. But I try not to eat cheese by itself as much as possible. And for the longest time, what I found worked for me with carnivore was trying to get as much of a long period of time of not eating. Okay, so I could get some of that autophagy going, which is the process whereby the body heals its dead cells, clears out whatever's dead, fixes whatever needs fixing, and so forth. And so what I would do is I would start my morning with a cup of coffee and try to push eating until lunchtime or even 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then give it at least 5 hours, and then I would eat dinner. Now, for the first year or so, even for the first 2 years, I didn't notice that having any sort of negative impact. And I went through periods where I was trying coffee with heavy cream, but again, after a few days, I would get itching on the roof of my mouth, I would have massive headaches, I would feel nauseated, and I would have to stop with the cream again. Okay, and I don't typically put milk in coffee. If I'm having a cappuccino, it's less milk. It's just because it's been frothed. It seems like more. For whatever reason, I did not, that I could see, seem to have an issue if I had a cappuccino maybe once every couple days. Now, the problem was, going forward, that cappuccino once every few days became a cappuccino every single day. And it wasn't one I was making myself at home. It was, for example, I would go out to, say, Starbucks or Cafe Nero or Costa, which are the big main ones here in the UK for sure. And I would get, cappuccinos from them. And if it was only once in the week, I would probably feel okay. However, it's become one of those, I want to get out of the house, I want to get into town, after COVID, let's get out, especially on a day like today, where the sun is out, and I think it's already about 14 Celsius, which is wonderful. It was one of those, well, if I'm out, then I'll stop and I'll have coffee while I'm out, while I'm having some me time, or if I'm running errands, getting some groceries, whatever. And what I didn't see, but I notice now, and I see it to be true now, is I was addicted to the cappuccinos. I would drink not just one a day, it built up to 2 a day. And then maybe I'd have like a large cup of black coffee at home, and then I'd go out and have more coffee in town, and then I'd make another coffee at home, or 2 more coffees at home, to the point where I was absolutely ruining the lining of my gut, without a doubt. And it was causing issues with my skin. I had forgotten how much oxalate there is in coffee. And so, have I fully quit coffee at this point? No, just to put that out there, no, I haven't. But I've learned to do something very different, which is helping me, okay? And I'll get to that in a minute. But it got to the point where my skin was constantly red and inflamed. And my teeth, I could never get super white. I always had that, that kind of coffee taste in the back of my mouth. And headaches all the time. If I did not have at least 3 cups of coffee in a day, I would have massive headaches. And I was realizing this is not good. And not only that, because I was over-consuming coffee, it was in fact controlling my appetite. And I thought I was eating only when I was hungry and to satiety. The thing is, when you are so full of caffeine, your hunger signals are completely messed up. They're completely screwed up. I thought I had moved past the time of my life where I was using, say, copious amounts of Diet Coke and copious amounts of coffee to restrict my food intake. I thought I was past that because I was eating. I was having at least lunch and dinner. But I was constantly under eating. And so while there was no side effects initially, certainly not for the first couple of years, but within the last few months, definitely. And I know this is true because when I tried to give up coffee a few months ago, I was so completely nauseated and I had such a pounding, painful headache. I couldn't do it. It was too much. I felt like I was going to be sick. And so I tried to keep it to 1 a day. And of course, eventually that 1 a day would become 2 a day and 3 a day. And I realized this is not helping me. And not only that, but my hormones are starting to get all wacky. My thyroid, in spite of me taking my thyroid medication, I know that my thyroid was not assisting the way it could do, as optimally as it might do, if I kept drinking such a large amount of coffee into my system. And I wasn't willing to see that. It had become my idol. My fear that nourishing my body would cause me to put on additional fat and water weight is what kept me from trying to find a solution that God wanted me to find. And, somebody who I deeply respect on YouTube, Rebecca Heischman, and you'll find her as Tailored Keto Health. She talks about how she was keto for like 15 years. And even at the time where she was binging on keto treats, where she was eating all the snacks and the baked goods and everything like that. Now, her situation was different. She was severely underweight because of chronic C. difficile infection that would not go away. And she couldn't keep the weight on. She was not trying to be anorexic in any sense, okay? But if you hear her tell her about her journey, unfortunately, her family believed the hospital. They thought, well, she's 69 pounds. Surely she's got to be anorexic. She was admitted into an eating disorder unit at a hospital against her will. And she was kept there against her will. And eventually, she put on enough weight to be discharged. And she eventually learned to give up what she was clinging to. And for her, she said she held on to the baby spinach, thinking it's got to be good, not understanding that, in fact, they're so high in oxalates and anti-nutrients that they were part of the problem. When she got rid of the plants and started eating fatty animal meats, that's when she saw the difference. But she herself will say and tell you that hanging on desperately to what she thought was the right way to go, even though she could see that something wasn't working right, she wasn't willing to give up the last of her plants. She wasn't willing to do that because that had become her idol. And when she finally surrendered that and said, okay, God, I've done it my way and this isn't helping and it isn't working. What can I do instead? And that's when she gave up the rest of the plants. She realized eating fatty meat was going to actually be the solution, and lots of eggs with yolks. That was what ended up helping her. And she reversed her fibromyalgia. She reversed her chronic pain, all of the arthritis and aches and pains and joint stuff she was dealing with. And not only that, she gained a whole bunch of healthy weight by surrendering. And what I've realized is that I have been thinking, well, yeah, coffee for breakfast, and I'll just push my peckishness. Well, what I realized is I was allowing the fear of my weight going up, whether that be water weight gain or fat. That was terrifying me so much that I was unwilling to try anything else to get healthy. And I know that it became my idol. Not in a way, it became my idol. I still love God. I still spend time with God. I'm still grateful, and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for all that God has done. But God has been making it very clear to me that I need to find a way to eat so that I actually heal, and that loading up on coffee to dull my hunger signals is not the way to do it. And even though it's so crazy, even though I know that intellectually, right? Even though I know that intellectually, accepting it emotionally is a whole different thing. It's completely different. And I know that it was God working, because last week, I don't know what it was. I think it was because I felt like my jeans, my clothes, they all fit me still around the waist. Like my waist hasn't changed. My waist size is still the same, okay? So right here, that's the waist, right? So there's the belly button. There's a belly button right there. So your waist is the bit that goes, your narrowest point, okay, which is pretty much around the belly button. That size was still the same. And I had ordered a couple of pairs of trousers from this group called Boohoo that should have fit. The waist fit fine, but for whatever reason, they were too tight around the hips and the buttocks, around the butt and the hips. But my waist hasn't changed. And normally for me, when I was putting weight on, it went to my belly first. Well, sorry. not to my waist, but would go to my abdomen first. And I had been noticing the last couple of months, particularly, that I always had this bulge, this sort of Buddha belly, this bloatedness. And I wasn't quite sure what it was. But, well, actually, no, I probably did suspect. Obviously, the milk in the cappuccinos was not helping. But part of it was the coffee itself. Part of it was I was forcing my body to eat less than it needed because I felt satisfied. Why? Because I had so much caffeine. That was controlling my hunger, not my hunger signals. And so, like I say, when I first started Carnivore, I had 80 pounds of extra fat and water weight that needed to go. And so for me, right, restricting at that point made sense because that's what got my body to start burning its own fat. But when I got down to a healthy weight, it's about 120, that's when it would fluctuate a little. And even when it was still saying 120 on the scale, I still noticed I had this pooch, this bit of a pooch in my abdomen. And that was probably because yes, there was still some belly fat under there, but more so, all the caffeine was so detrimental to myself. And I had to realize and see that, and I really felt this yesterday, that, oh my goodness, I've basically gone back to my mental state where I was at the end of September of 2020. Where eating anything would send me into a bit of a panic, like, oh my gosh, am I going to suddenly get fat? Am I going to suddenly add on water weight? Am I going to get bloated again? In the back of my mind. And all that caffeine was keeping my adrenals in overdrive. And so you've got all this stress and cortisol being produced. Well, it's no wonder there's still water weight and belly fat being held onto around my abdomen because my body's like, Megan, you're putting us into like desperate mode. You're putting us into constant stress mode. We're going to hang on to this as long as possible. And it will never go away as long as you treat us like this. Now, obviously they didn't speak to me, but that's what was happening. And it was the same thing, September of 2020. I'd lost all this weight, but I was in this constant mindset of, oh my gosh, if I eat one extra thing, it'll be like, I'll blow up again. Because I never let myself be nourished to true fullness. So, as I was dealing with the frustration of having this pot belly last week, by coincidence, I don't think so. I was going through recommended videos on my YouTube channel, and a few from Bella Ma, who is the steak and butter gal, popped up. And it was perfect timing because she does these monthly carnivore challenges. And how it works is the first 2 weeks definitely, and some say even the first month, all you do is you prime your body. Meaning the first week you eat 3 meals a day plus snacks. And my first thought was, well, I'm already eating 2 meals a day. I don't need that. Why would I need that? And then I realized because my body, if I stop with all the coffee, is screaming out to be nourished fully and properly. And I had to figure out what true fullness felt like. And I gotta tell you, feels great. I'm only, what is this, day 5 or day 6 in? Day 5, I think. Yeah, day 5. And I, the one key thing, the one important key thing is I make myself eat something for breakfast every morning. I would wake up and think, oh, but I'm not that hungry. Well, because I need to train my body to get an appetite back so that it can feel full and it will not be in constant panic stress mode of hang on to everything because she ain't going to feed us anytime soon, right? And so I've been doing that, and I had a couple mornings, I think, where all I had was just some bacon and eggs. And I tell you the honest truth, the first morning I made myself eat breakfast, I felt nauseated because I wasn't used to it. But within an hour, I started to feel really good, and I allowed myself the ability to snack when I felt a twinge of hunger. So that might have been a little bit of butter, or I kept some pork cocktail sausages, packets of them in the fridge, and I would just snack on those. And then make myself eat at lunch and make myself eat at dinner. And the first couple of days, I was freaking out a bit. Why? Because I felt even more full and puffy. And then by the third day, didn't feel quite so bloaty. And by the fourth day, just to see what was happening, my leggings suddenly felt like they were fitting a little bit better. They didn't feel like, like how sometimes if you gain weight in your hips and your butt, things like leggings kind of rise up higher, right? Well, these are sitting where they were supposed to. And when I weighed myself on the scale, in 4 days, I lost 3 pounds. Now, I fully accept that was almost 100% water weight. But that means my body's going, hey, wait a minute. We are going to get fed. We are going to be nourished. We can let go of this stuff. And that was so freeing. And so joining the Carnivore Challenge with the Steak and Butter Gang is what I did. Because I realized as long as my body is in chronic fight or flight and stress, even without me feeling anxious or stressed, if my body feels stressed, it will also cause my fibromyalgia pain to flare up and get worse. It means that my joints will be more inflamed and achy. And I want to heal. I want to be able to reverse those conditions. And I think practically anything is reversible through proper nutrition and, of course, with God. Maybe some things won't. Like I'm not going to say, yeah, even cure cancer with this. I don't know, maybe, or improve your span of life maybe by a few years, or perhaps improve the quality of life. But what I do know is that I feel so nourished. And for me, the first morning, I felt like I was dying for coffee because I had to wait. You cannot, you only drink coffee after breakfast, and you have to have breakfast so the body gets the right signals through the day, which makes sense. And once I was doing that for a few days, all of a sudden I realized I'm actually hungry. I want to eat something, which is new for me, which is great. Eat until I feel comfortably stuffed and full. Not really feeling like a snack at the moment, which is good. And then I'll have lunch again, probably within the next hour. But it's been an amazing experience because even when I have my one Americano coffee after breakfast, that's it. I really don't want any other coffee throughout the day. I have not wanted it. And that to me is an amazing thing. I find that it does help give me a bit of energy, and it keeps any lingering headaches away. And eventually, I hope to come off it fully. But in the meantime, the fact that I don't feel like I have to keep making cup after cup after cup is amazing to me. Because it is a toxin, that we happen to drink, but it does have an accumulative effect, right? Clearly, because look, my skin was even worse than this. And the one thing I've learned is that as our bodies get nourished and heal, once I start getting to the point where I can go from 3 meals a day plus snacks down to 3 meals a day, distinct meals, and then 2 meals, maybe even 1 meal a day, I'm ready to give some fastings a try. But the difference is that the fastings happen only after you've fully nourished your body. In other words, you have let your body know, hey, you are full, you've got everything you need. If you have to go for 24 hours without eating anything, guess what? We aren't going to panic. And in fact, you know what? We will use whatever fat stores are on your body. Just like people did way back at the beginning of creation. That's how they ate. They weren't eating 6 times a day. They were maybe eating once or twice a day while they had something to eat, filling up, getting full, and therefore when there's longer periods without food, they didn't starve. Feasting and fasting, and it's a thing. And I think it's definitely just an extra step that God's allowed me to find because I'm at the point where I'm ready for it. I would say this. Do people need to do this in order to have improvements in their health? No. My brain fog cleared up without this. My inflammation reduced. I lost 80 pounds of fat and water weight and inflammation. Absolutely. But for me to continue healing, not only to heal what my body wants to hang on to in my belly, in my abdominal area, but also so I can strengthen my core, because I want to be able to walk around freely, not just in a house. I want to be able to walk to town and back and not have to be in a wheelchair. I want to be able to go on a holiday with my husband, with my family, and not have to worry about where's my crutch going to go in the overhead baggage. Will they get the wheelchair there safely? Will it get left by mistake and put in some other plane by accident? You know what I mean? I want to be able to travel freely without any of that stuff. But I know that if I want my back to continue to heal, if I want my digestion to heal, if I want my gut to heal and seal and my IBS to fully go away and all of the symptoms that come with it, I need to nourish my body with the good things and take out the bad stuff. And thankfully, at this point, the one last vice is a cup of coffee in the morning after breakfast, not on an empty stomach. And so I'm hoping that as I go through this process, so basically how it works is you do 7 days of 3 meals plus snacks and coffee only after you've eaten. Now, I'm glad I've got it down to 1 cup. And what I've started to do for myself is I've learned how to make egg coffee and egg and butter coffee. Like, okay, it'll sound weird, but believe me, it actually is pretty tasty. Last night, I was feeling a little bit hungry. I didn't want to eat anything, but I wanted to make sure my body was nourished so I would sleep well. And so what I did is I put 2 egg yolks in a big coffee mug, added a little bit of sea salt, a tiny pinch of baking spices, allspices. So that's a mixture of cardamom, nutmeg, ginger, and cinnamon. Tiny, teeny, tiny little, like literally a tiny pinch, and that was it. And then I whisked the eggs, added the seasonings, added boiling water, and then I mixed it all up with an egg beater, with a hand mixer. And I drank that last night. Oh, and I added a little sliver, like a little slice of or a pat of butter. And it all melted together. It was delicious. And I had no more hunger. I felt satisfied, satiated, and that got me through until breakfast this morning. And also no chemicals from decaf destroying my gut, and no chemicals from regular coffee stimulating my body, keeping my adrenals in overdrive. So we'll see. That maybe that's the answer. But I wanted to share this because so far it's been going really well. I will keep you guys posted. And of course, if you guys want to know more, if you guys are interested in any way, go check out Steak and Butter Gal and her carnivore challenges. And you can find out all about them. They're really, really great. And because of I signed up late, but all of the Zoom meetings are recorded for replay. So even though I'm getting all of these now on replay because of when I started and the fact that they're on the west coast of the States and time difference, it's okay. It's still super encouraging and really helpful. So anyways, that was what I wanted to share. That's what I've been up to lately. That's what's been going on with me, and realizing that the way I've been trying to do carnivore, it's stopped working. I was starting to put my hormones and my adrenals and everything in danger because I wasn't willing to let go of what I thought was the right way or a healthy way. And I had to trust that maybe God had a better way of me healing. I've been praying to heal further, and I think this is probably the way that He has in mind. So I'll let you guys know how it goes. I hope you are all doing well, and thank you so much for supporting me and for coming to this channel. I hope this is helpful. You know, I really do. I hope this is help to somebody. You do not have to do this, by the way. You do not have to do this feasting and fasting protocol to find some benefits. For me, I needed to switch things up because I was falling back into my very regimented, structured way of doing carnivore in a way that it was no longer helping me. It was starting to hurt me. That was me. Okay. The one thing I would suggest, and I'm not saying you have to give up coffee. I'm still drinking a large Americano every day. The one thing I would advise, if I can do that, is if you want to keep drinking coffee, and of course you can, do it after you've eaten a meal, not before. Like, don't drink it on an empty stomach, because that will just eventually cause you nothing but intestinal and digestive and stomach problems. Maybe not right away, but over time, that's definitely what can happen. And it can put if you're a female, it can put your hormones in the tank, which is where mine were starting to head again. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you're all doing so well, and thank you so much for watching. And feel free to share this with anybody that you think it might benefit. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.